Was America's smallest war hero, Green Beret Captain Rich James Flaherty, also a spy or a CIA operative. For those who don't know my backstory, I was a retired police officer that became friends with a tiny homeless man. Homeless man revealed his life story 15 years after our friendship, and I learned that he was the smallest man to serve in the U.S. military, served with the 101st Airborne and 3rd Special Forces Group in Vietnam and Thailand. In the war, earned the Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts. So here's where things get murky with the undercover stuff, the CIA stuff. In 1971, he was a captain with the 3rd Special Forces Group. He might have actually been with the 10th, in maybe it's Fort Devens, I would have to look at the paperwork. But whoever he was with, he wanted to stay in training and stay in the military for his life. But there was a thing called the RIF, reduction in force, which is basically a downsizing in the military. The politicians were trying to cut budgets, and guys like Richard Flaherty, other officers, they didn't get their contracts renewed. They worked on contracts. I don't know if it's like that now. So he got kicked out of the military along with a bunch of other military guys. And if you read, there's some books about guys called the Crippled Eagles. And these are a bunch of Vietnam vets that also got riffed out of the military, and they decided to go to South Africa as mercenaries and fight in what they thought was, or some fought for money, I'm assuming, but some thought they kept the fight going against communism, because back then Russia and China had all their advisors in South Africa, and they were pushing communism. So some of those guys just wanted to keep their fight going against the communists, whether it was the Vietnamese, the Russians, or the Chinese. So I have a lot of anecdotal stories of Richard being there. Richard never talked to me about that, but I have a lot of witnesses that talk to me, and since I've had these social media posts, other people from who served in South African military have mentioned Captain Flaherty, because it's the one guy on earth that everyone remembers, the 4'9", 97-pound little guy, Green Beret. So I'm pretty solid on the fact that he was there working as a private military contractor. And after that, he started working in operation, this is 100% in the Everglades, training Cuban rebels for a possible takeover. And I think this was 1975 to 77 that he was training them in the Everglades. That I got from a bunch of federal agents that are very familiar with his activities. Did he get picked up at that point in time, or was that a CIA operation? So for those who don't know, the CIA does recruit from the Green Berets mostly, as opposed to, let's say, Navy SEAL. In my opinion, would be the Navy SEALs are kind of like a weapon you use for a mission, or to take care of something, or snatch and grab, or to eliminate somebody, while a Green Beret would be somebody you would possibly send behind enemy lines to work with governments, to help build insurrections, things like that. Green Berets probably are molded better to CIA operative work. And the word operative, basically a private military contractor for the CIA. You don't work directly for the government. You're working for a CIA, I believe it's an officer. And however that money gets disseminated, and that power and that information, that all comes through him or her. So I believe that's probably where he got his start, doing that work in the Everglades. And he was also protected because the ATF was looking to arrest that group out there, because they've heard rumors of a group of military guys training out there, and they have no idea what it's about. But supposedly Flaherty and his men were tipped off by other law enforcement agencies about the ATF case, and that's why he was never caught. But he was picked up at a gun show in Fort Lauderdale with silencers, and he got brought into the ATF, and that's where he ended up meeting a good friend of his, Agent Fred Gleffy. And Fred Gleffy worked an undercover operation with Flaherty in Fort Bragg, which, once again, it gets murky, because most of the people I spoke to say, yeah, it was a real operation, and these were a bunch of Green Berets that were stealing weapons and explosives. And then other people say, no, that was a CIA operation to help get weapons down to the Central American people fighting communism back then, like the Iran-Contra scandal. So once again, things just go back to getting murky. After that, for those who are familiar with this story, Flaherty becomes homeless, or he purposely lives on the street to evade people looking for him, and I become friends with him. I have no idea that at that time that we're friends. I'm a police officer and he's just a homeless guy. He's still going around the country, and that is 100% because I found his passports, I found plane tickets, I found plane reservations. I spoke to witnesses in hotels of where he stayed. Once again, who is he working for? He went to Venezuela twice. He went to Amman, Jordan. He went to Iraq during the Iraq War, or he went to Amman, Jordan during the Iraq War. And that's pretty obvious that he was a private military contractor. And remember, even Flaherty in his 60s or late 50s, he's not out there, firing a gun. He's there training local population in Green Beret tactics. So it's not surprising an elderly guy would be a private military contractor in a war, especially with Flaherty's background. So as far as proof, no, there's no proof. I wrote my Freedom of Information Acts with all the different branches, including the CIA, and there's no trail there. It's just a rabbit hole. So if there's any other experts in this field that ever wanted to look into it, that actually were operatives or actual officers in the CIA that wanted to look into this and provide more to the story, I'm all for it. But as far as my contacts and as far as my digging, I think it stops there with all his random trips around the world in the time that he was homeless.